From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
All right, Nashville, welcome to SportsLine. Great to be with you on this Wednesday night. It is the Wednesday extravaganza. I'll be with you till the top of the hour. 737-7767 is the number to call. And we're getting close to football season, folks. Still got a lot of summer left, but also you can start feeling the football in the air, can't you? SEC Media Days going on this week. We'll get to more of that, of course. The Titans opening training camp in just a couple of weeks now. So we are getting down to the nitty-gritty. Your expectations for the Titans, for Tennessee, for Vanderbilt, all there for you on the table. 737-7767 if you'd like to call in with your outlook, your crystal ball, if you will, for those teams. You can throw in Middle Tennessee State, Tennessee State University as well. It is, again, starting to become a little bit of football time, folks. Again, it's only the middle of July. We still got plenty of summer left, especially here in the southeast where we live, where the warm weather comes early and stays late. And I love that, being from the northeast. But we'll get your thoughts, if you like, on the upcoming football season. We always love to talk football here on SportsLine. Coming up after our first break around 8:15, Adam Sparks of the Tennessean. We'll talk a little Vanderbilt football. Head coach Derek Mason and a couple selected players speaking earlier this week in Hoover at SEC Media Days. And then at 8:30, we're going to talk with Virgil Herring, our buddy PGA teaching pro, get a preview of the British Open, which really starts in just a matter of hours across the pond in the UK, the third major of the year. And we'll get his thoughts on that, plus a lot of the top-name golfers choosing not to go to Rio and compete in the Olympics. We'll get his thoughts on that as well. Your phone calls, as we said, always welcome, 737-7767. A reminder, tomorrow will be the public memorial for Pat Summitt in Knoxville. They're calling it Pat Summitt's Celebration of Life. We'll have complete coverage of that for you all day, both online and on the air, on the various News Channel 5 networks, News Channel 5, News Channel 5 Plus, and NewsChannel5.com. Of course, our Facebook pages as well. You can follow us on Twitter at NC5. You can follow me on Twitter at NC5_John Burton. Let me know what you're thinking out there in terms of the upcoming football season, your predictions for the Titans, for Tennessee, for Vanderbilt, Middle Tennessee State, Austin Peay, Tennessee Tech. It's all on the table. Speaking of SEC Media Days, on Wednesday, it was Nick Saban's turn to step to the podium. Of course, he's now the lone rock star head coach in the SEC, especially with Steve Spurrier gone, coming off another national championship. And a surprisingly giddy Nick Saban taken to the podium today earlier in Hoover. Let's check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by University of Alabama head coach Nick Saban. We'll start right with questions. We'll have 10 minutes. First question is actually back row in the right.
Nick, not knowing the intimate details of how a stolen firearm ended up in one of your players' possessions, in your opinion...
I can't really hear what you're saying.
Can you speak up a little bit, please?
Yes, sir. And in your opinion, would stricter gun control laws and measures better prevent a situation in which a stolen firearm would somehow end up in a player's possession?
Look, you know, I don't really think that I should be someone who is determining what gun laws we need to have or don't have. I do think that the thing that we try to teach, you know, our players is that respect for other people, relationships with other people. I think that when people make poor choices and decisions about how they use these things that you're talking about, it's because they're afraid. They don't have a relationship, they don't have an understanding, they don't have a feeling, whether it's a policeman or some young person of whatever, you know, Hispanic, white, black. I mean, so this person doesn't know how that person feels, that person don't know how this person, and there's always a little fear. And I think when you have that kind of fear, you have people making poor choices and decisions about how they do these things. In any case, I don't think I'm in a position But I do think having respect for other people and developing relationships, which is what we try to do on our team. So we don't have those problems internally. I think this is something that if we worked on this on a global, we would end up solving problems rather than creating them.
Left side here against the wall.
Chase Goodbread with NFL.com. Coach, at the spring meetings in Destin, you mentioned the possibility of a junior day workout to help underclassmen get a stronger scouting evaluation. How much support do you sense in the coaching community for that idea, and what would some of the challenges be to make it a reality?
Well, I think that people are listening. I think there was a lot of support in our conference with our conference coaches when we discussed it at our spring meetings in Destin. I think that the NFL is very much interested in this. We have a meeting scheduled in the near future to discuss some ways to implement this. And I think, just so everybody understands philosophically why we would do something like this, I think that from an NFL perspective and from a college perspective, when we have a significant number of players make not good decisions about whether they stay in school or go out for the draft, and that would, through the years, we've had a lot of guys that we've encouraged to go out for the draft, that have gone out for the draft, that by getting drafted in the first round, in some cases the second round, created financial security for themselves and their future. But yet there's a cross-section of people out there who maybe aren't giving young people responsible information about making this decision, which is indicative of 107 guys going out for the draft last year. I don't have the statistics in front of me. They're available to you, but probably at least half of those guys probably shouldn't have made that decision relative to whether they didn't get picked or where they got picked. They'd have been better off enhancing their draft status by staying in school and developing as a player. So there's a group of people out there that are not being responsible on how they sort of help these guys and create unrealistic expectations for what their future might be as a football player based on, where they are in their development. But I think that the NFL's issue is they don't have all the information on underclassmen. So we asked them in December to give us a grade on a guy that maybe they didn't even look at through the course of the season. Maybe they didn't even look at when they were coming to watch us practice. They certainly never had the opportunity to interview or to time like they do some of the other players. So it's twofold. They have to use almost all the spots at the combine to bring the juniors in because they don't know anything about them, which pushes some of the seniors out and takes away their opportunity. So what we're trying to do is say, okay, let's be upfront about this. Here's our juniors. Here's the half dozen guys that we have that may be guys that you want to look at next year. It doesn't work. The basketball model doesn't work because we would never be able to manage our numbers because of the signing date, because of the season ending in January, February signing date. That doesn't work, but maybe pre-season, whether it's after spring practice or sometimes, come in, work out the juniors, work out the guys. You look at these guys, you evaluate these guys through the course of the season, and then when we ask you in December if they're interested in going out for the draft, we can get a more specific draft grade. All right, because there's been too many missed calls relative to where guys get picked. And I think this just enhances the irresponsible people to be able to influence guys that, hey, even though you got a go back to school grade, there were 6 guys last year that got this grade that got drafted in the first round. Well, you would eliminate that and you would have more specific information so people could have a better, make a better choice and decision about their future.
Left side in the corner.
Coach, I have 2 questions for you. With all the kind of the negative news surrounding college football as a whole past couple of months, it'd be nice to have stories of leaders and players stepping up and doing the right thing. I know you teach something called the power of one with your players. I'm curious if you'd share that with us.
Well, the power of one is, people think that leadership is standing up in front of a whole big group of people or the whole team and giving some fantastic speech or being able to inspire a whole group by what you do. And I think sometimes leadership comes from being somebody that somebody can emulate, setting a good example, caring enough about one person, just one person. to help serve that person to change and help them sort of make the kind of sacrifices and develop the kind of habits that are going to help them be successful. And, that grows. All right, so if 3 people affect 1, that's 6. If those 6 affect 1, that's 12. All right, so you just keep sort of, by setting a good example and developing a respect and trust on your team. I think the same thing, which I alluded to before, could work some in society and might be helpful in developing a little respect and trust for each other out there as well.
And Coach, finally, with the news out of Baylor the past couple of months, I said on the radio that I thought most coaches around the country would take an opportunity to look in the mirror, look in their own closet, look at their own policies and procedures, and say, how can I be better? And Coach, your words carry a lot of weight in the college football community. I'm curious how that made you do a self-check of yourself, your program, and see how maybe Alabama can be a leader in this area.
Well, I don't think there's any question about the fact that we have a social issue through all parts of human beings that is an issue. And we want to do an outstanding job of helping educate our players in terms of how they should manage, how they need to respect women, and the consequences of domestic violence and not treating people with proper respect. That's something that has been ongoing in our program, and we have had a program, speakers, education, and peer intervention for all behavioral issues, whether it's drugs, alcohol, agents, gambling, how to treat the opposite sex, domestic violence type stuff, macho man stuff, using guns, that was brought up before, having guns, all these things. So we have a whole team of people who are working hard to try to develop that. I think the thing that we do actually helps our players to a large degree, but I don't think it's fair sometimes to think we're going to be perfect and being able to affect everyone to make the right choices and decisions. But this is something that we are very serious about, and that we are doing everything that we can in our program to try to influence our players to make the best choices and decisions when it comes to any kind of respect in terms of how to treat the opposite sex.
We only have time for 2 last questions. Right side, 3rd row.
Coach, could you update us on the statuses of Cam Robinson and Hootie Jones as we look ahead to the start of the season, and also the situation involving Maurice Smith and his decision to transfer?
Well, first of all, let's take the second one first. Is we have a rule in the SEC that if a player wants to transfer to an SEC school, and this rule was put in place years ago with the wisdom of a lot of people, so that people would not recruit players from one school in the conference to another. And that rule is that you have to sit out a year if you transfer inside the conference. And we support that rule. I mean, we think that's a good rule. We think that if we didn't have that rule, everybody would be cherry-picking guys from another team, especially graduates, because they're immediately eligible, and that wouldn't be good for our conference. So we support that rule. So if Maurice Smith has been a good player on our team, he's a good person, and he would be a significant contributor to our team this year if he decided to stay at Alabama. And we have told him that because we support the SEC rule, it would not be in your best interest to have to sit out. If you want to go someplace else, we'd be glad to help you do that if you don't want to continue to be a part of our program. Cam Robinson and Hootie were not charged with anything. I think that the facts that we have are a little different than sort of were advertised. Both players have done a significant amount of things to change their behavior internally, whether it was police ride-around, whether it was community service for juvenile groups that need positive role models and influence to make better choices and decisions. So we have viewed this as If these guys do these things to change their behavior and help these other people, and that is ongoing, if they continue to do that, that will be how this matter is handled internally.
Nick Saban, Alabama football coach, addressing the media today at SEC Media Days. Time for our first break. When we come back, we'll talk more SEC. Adam Sparks, who covers Vanderbilt athletics for the Tennessean, he will join us, talk a little Vandy football and the rest of the goings-on in Hoover at SEC Media Days. Stay with us. We'll be back.